Welcome to the EntreEd Talk podcast. We are your hosts, Toy Hirschman and
Laura McCall.
Join us as we dive into incredible stories from inspiring entrepreneurs around the world.
Whether you are an educator looking for ideas to engage students, a new learner, or someone who wants to be inspired, our guest journeys and their ideas will give you resources to create value and take your own leap into entrepreneurship.
We are so looking forward to sharing our message with you.
And don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the EntreEd Talk podcast on whatever platform you listen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of the EntreEd Talk podcast. We are over the moon this morning to be with Dr. Cathy D'Antoni. Dr. D'Antoni was appointed the Assistant State Superintendent of Schools with the West Virginia Department of Education, Division of Technical and Adult Education in 2010. In 2012, she was appointed the Associate State Superintendent. She is the former Vice Chancellor of the West Virginia Council for Community and Technical College Education. She obtained her doctorate degree from West Virginia University in Higher Education Administration. Dr. D'Antoni began her career in education as a teacher. In 1975, she left the education field to participate in a family-owned business in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She returned to education in 1992 and worked with Tech Prep Initiative at Marshall University and later as the State Director for Tech Prep. She served as interim president of West Virginia State Community and Technical College in 2008. She has worked extensively with curriculum alignment and curriculum development projects, including the National and International Innovative Simulated Workplace Initiative. She's the past president of the National Association for Tech Prep Leaders and sat on the National League of Innovation Sale Board. She currently serves on the Governor's Workforce Council. She's authored a number of articles on effective transition practices from public schools to higher education and collaborated on 2 books with national authors, Career Pathways and Adult Career Pathways. Dr. D'Antoni's vision for career and technical education in West Virginia is to leverage education dollars to impact West Virginia's economy and emerging workforce. Welcome, 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 Cathy. We're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited to be here.
And you have some more interesting news to share too, which I will let you share with our audience, but we're very excited to hear about it. So
okay.
Speaking of that, you've had an amazing career, and again, we're just thrilled to have you. But before we dive in, can you share a little bit more about your personal journey and what's next?
Well, my journey has been pretty extensive. It's been a broken journey. I have been in education. I was also 20 years, I was in the private sector, came back to education because that's where my passion is. And I left education to begin with because I had a strong sense that education system, the process was not about a process for students. It was a process for adults. So I left, I went to the private industry for 20 years, came back to education because that is my passion. And I thought, maybe if I get a degree high enough, I can get to where I can try to have an impact on changes that need to happen in our education process. I have had some wonderful, wonderful opportunities, and we have been successful, not to the extent that I would like to see change happen, but to the extent that we are seeing student opportunities and students escalate their abilities and their skill sets. And we just see this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're really excited about where we're going from here. So then about, I don't even know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, I'm not even sure the time frame here, I had a couple of opportunities. So I made the choice to retire from my current position as Associate State Superintendent, not to retire, but in order to shift my focus to another piece. So I worked with the State Superintendent, Clayton Birch, who is, by the way, is going to be an excellent superintendent. I worked with him to design, we're going to put together an innovation hub within the Department of Education that will establish or implement true models across the state of education for students. And I'm so excited about what this is going to look like. The other piece of that is also I have been appointed to serve on the Board of Governors for Marshall University. And that is exciting to me because it was where I got my bachelor's degree. And I am a true Thundering Herd fan. So both areas, I'm very excited about all the possibilities that are ahead of us. And the Innovation Hub, we have some great ideas about how we're going to change education in West Virginia for the better. Now, I am not a naysayer of our public education. I want to make that real clear up front. I think we have an excellent education system. However, I do think that we can take it to another level. And that's what this Innovation Hub is all about.
I just have so many things to say to you. First of all, I'm a gerontologist by original trade and grad school. So I love hearing you say I'm not retiring from. It's always, what are you retiring to? And you've got an amazing next plan with the hub. So congratulations on you.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited. I really am. We already have in place 3 models out there that is going to just sort of slide into the Innovation Hub. But we have 3 empowerment academies going on right now and has for the past 2 years in West Virginia with our middle schools. We're seeing amazing things happen. So I cannot tell you how passionate I am about where we're headed.
But Toi and I just might have to come to those middle schools. I make it known that middle school is my favorite group of folks when it comes to teaching. And I agree with you. There's so much good stuff about the West Virginia school system. I'm currently in North Carolina, but I raised my kids in West Virginia. Sadly, they both went out of state to college, but I can say very strongly that they looked back at their education and said, man, was I ever prepared. My daughter competed in the Northeast and my son in Kentucky. And, they said things like, Mom, our friends don't know how to write a research paper. And they were doing that, in middle school.
Sure.
So I think the curriculum is strong, but I think with society and our changes, we have to pivot. And so it sounds exciting what you're doing. You mentioned passion a lot. You mentioned non-traditional. So, and you talked about, this new things in middle school and the hub. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you empowered the educators to bring out the best in their students?
Well, first of all, what I have found out, let me back up just a minute. We started Simulated Workplace. You mentioned that in my bio. This is a national and international model. Very few people, some people know about it in West Virginia, but it is not as widely known as I wish it was. But we already have over 1,400 companies in West Virginia. And basically we took, for those who don't understand Simulated Workplace, we took a traditional classroom in career tech and we turned it into a company that these students run this company. And the teacher shifts to a facilitator. I've said 1,000 times, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the teacher was the master, the holder of the knowledge. Where we have gone as a society and our knowledge base has quadrupled in this world. Everything has been shown right here on an iPhone. Here's your knowledge.
She has a Marshall iPhone, by the way.
Oh, yes, I do. So anyway, to ask a child, when Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, I haven't even forgot from elementary, we need to take them beyond. And so when a teacher becomes a facilitator, then it opens up the child's world to be able to proceed on his levels and his determination and his accountability to the level he or she wants to get to. The teacher then becomes a valuable resource, but she or he is empowered because now they really get to what this child's interests, aptitudes, abilities, and allow them to reach their own potential. So one thing that we need to do better in West Virginia, teachers need to help with the design of the education process, not be handed a playbook. And I think what I'm seeing when we're working with these schools of change, a lot of teachers look at you and say, well, just tell me what to do. Well, they're the experts. I'm not the expert. They're boots on the ground in the classroom. They need to be just as empowered as the students to be allowed to work with us to develop the design. And I think that's why I'm so excited. This is West Virginia built, West Virginia bred. We're not going to Texas, California, New York to bring in what they're doing. Why we don't honor our intelligence here in West Virginia, it drives me crazy. And when we did Simulated Workplace, I was presented to a lot of groups, and I'll never forget this businessman sitting in the audience, very engaged in the conversation. And he looked at me, he said, where did this idea come from? What state is doing that? And I said, sir, this is a West Virginia idea. This is designed and built by West Virginians. Why we don't value that, I will never understand. We have some great people in this state. We have some very smart people in this state. So all of this new innovation is being designed and built by West Virginia teachers, administrators, and educators and business people. So I'm just really excited about all that we can do.
That's amazing. And we could not agree with that philosophy and that more. When we go into schools, whether in West Virginia or elsewhere, that's exactly what we talk about. We talk about, it's kind of trickle down empowerment, right? So we're not bringing a curriculum up in here, and we
Thank you.
Entrepreneurship.
What we are doing is we're setting what the Innovation Hub is doing in our schools. We do it in Simulated Workplace. This is why we know it's right, because over 7 years of Simulated Workplace, we see what works. It's not the curriculum. You don't hand a curriculum to a teacher and a student and say, here, just do this. We set an environment and a culture. The teachers and the students together design the curriculum. That's the difference. But the culture, the environment is student voice, student-led, teacher facilitated. We have seen it work. We've had over 45 school districts from, I think, probably 18 states in the country of Australia have been in here to visit our model simulated workplaces. The superintendent for Virginia schools called me after one of the visits, and he looked at me. He said, Cathy, I want to tell you something. I've been in education 30 years. I have never, ever spoken to a student to the level that these students can tell me what they're learning, what their standards are, and what skill sets they have acquired. He said, I've never heard this. And this happens when you allow students to be part of the process. And, if you look at it right now, what we do with kids, we tell them when to come to school, what to do at school, where to sit, what to wear, what to eat, what to take, where they're headed. Where's their voice? Where is it that they get to talk about their passions, their desires? And if you start doing this in the third grade, by the time they get to seniors, no wonder they don't know what they want to do.
Well, I have to laugh and say third grade is when my daughter got a yellow slip, and she goes, Mom, can't talk in the hallway, can't talk in the classroom,
there we
can't
go.
talk in the lunchroom. Where can I talk? Well, she'd end up being an actor. So she learned to, but Toy and I laugh about that all the time. It's like, don't get us started about squelching the mindset. And my 20-year-old son, he agreed with me. He read one of my pieces of writing that Toi and I are working on. It's like, this generation is hungering to have critical thinking and be allowed to just expand and blow their minds away. And they want to be challenged, and they want to fail, and they want all these things that we have not allowed. You're right.
They do. I have had more parents that I don't know, and I have gone into, like if I'm in a meeting, I'll walk through and a secretary or an associate will come up and say, can I just talk to you for a minute? And I introduce myself, and they'll say, thank you. Thank you. I said, thank you for what? They said, my son, I couldn't get my son to go to school. I couldn't get him out of bed. His ninth grade. She said, I fought with him every day until simulated workplace. She said, I don't have to do anything. He's up, he's out, he's gone. And it's not Cathy D'Antoni. It is instructors. It is administrators of these schools who have turned these schools upside down and allowed students to be voices out there. And it's just amazing. I mean, I'm just amazed. We have a phenomenal layer of young people in this state, phenomenal. And we're not using them the right. We have a resource. We need to use them.
Yeah, I was floored because I came from a different state and became an administrator in career tech in West Virginia. And it was before, I think right before our simulated workplace started, but I was just blown away by the difference in the career and technical education process where I was and compared to West Virginia. I mean, it was so organized, and the teachers, I mean, I didn't have to do anything as a principal. I just hung out and went to classes, because the teachers and the students, even then, had such an amazing rapport with one another, and you could tell that the students wanted to be there. And it was a standalone in Mineral County, standalone Texas.
Sure.
And kids were so happy to come to class. It was really incredible.
And we've been doing this and you're right. We have in our career tech centers right today, we have a 98% attendance rate. We have a 98% graduation from high school rate, and we have 0 to maybe 1/8. We might get one discipline referral a year, maybe.
Oh, I thought, when you're a principal, you have to deal with all this discipline. I didn't see a kid unless he cut off an appendage.
Right.
It didn't happen. I'm just kidding.
And it's not because we are so good. It's because, and I'm like, come on, folks, open your eyes. They're engaged. They feel like it's important. It's relevant. They see, and these young people understand, and it's something they want to do. So it's exciting. But this whole innovation hub, where we're headed is we're taking the environment of the simulated workplace, taking career, we're taking entrepreneurship, and we're putting it together in schools. And we're going to have hopefully 2 or 3, we haven't decided yet, called Dreamer Districts. And it'll be an elementary, middle, high school. They're feeder schools. So they're Dreamer Districts that will change the way that the education process is delivered, not the content. People get all upset because you got to have my math stuff. You got to have my English stuff. We're not going to change the curriculum. We're changing the process of delivering the curriculum. So we're very excited about it. And like I said, we have 3 middle schools right now. We've already seen a 14% increase in the test scores of these schools. And I had to convince teachers every time, well, what's going to happen to our test scores? We can't do that. We've got to look at the test score. I said, trust me. When you have it to where students are engaged, they're going to blow the test out of the water. But when they don't see a connection, and it's just like, oh, by the way, we're going down the hall and test today, there's nothing lit for them. There's no accountability. Mm-hmm. And so we're starting to see all of that change.
You better make sure you invite us in there, because boy, I would love to come visit, love to come say hello.
Whenever we can actually go, that will be
there you go. Well, we can travel.
Right. And I'm telling you, the entrepreneurship that we have put in our simulated workplaces over this COVID thing, we thought we would see a drop off of the progress of our entrepreneurial kids that were trying to build prototypes and stuff. We saw an increase. And the other thing, we had 10 of our top kids actually zoomed in with angels across the United States. And these angels were just blown away at these kids' ideas, And out of the, I think, 8 of them that were on there, 5 of them ended up with contacts that are actually helping them get their business up and running. The other 3 or 4, they were given advice how to move forward and then contact to come back once they'd gotten to that place.
Wow.
I just sat there in total amazement. There was one young man who was zoomed in on he was in his truck because he was in Monroe County and didn't have signal. I mean, he had a hard time with connections. And he drove his truck to a hot spot, and he's zooming in inside his truck. And this child has a chicken flat business, FLAT business. He is now, his business has tripled. He has an investor, he has an angel, and he is a junior, I think a junior or senior in high school. This is what we can do. West Virginia is an entrepreneurial state. We need to get those skills so kids have an opportunity. And by all means, stay in West Virginia. I don't want them leaving.
Is that the Yes West Virginia competition? Is that?
Yes, that is it.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yes. And we were going to have a summit, which would, I think, open the eyes of a lot of people. And unfortunately, COVID came in. But this is still on our radar.
Wow. I'm curious, Cathy, how the empowerment academies that are in the middle school, which I guess are going to be part of the innovation hubs, how long have they been running? We
will go into our 3rd year. This is the big year because we have been swimming in this little pool. We're sort of waiting and, we've done little things here and there. This is a year that you put your money where your mouth is because we've done all little pieces. So this year, hopefully if we get back to school, this year we will see a total flip of the middle school pieces in our 3 schools. We have Westwood Middle School that is in Monongalia County, Calhoun-Gilmer, which is in Calhoun County, and Peterstown, which is in Monroe County. So those are our 3 schools, and they have been working hard at work and it's starting to change around. But if you talk to the students, I wish I had kept those comments from students, but they come up with ideas how to make their school better. And I remember one comment off the top of my head. There was a young lady, 11 years old. She said, why aren't we meeting first thing in the morning and setting our goals for this week? And then at the end of the week, we come back and we tell what we have accomplished. It's an 11-year-old child. This is what happens when you allow them to talk about what it is that they want to do. And there was one group, this was an elementary school that has just started to dabble. It's going to be in one of our Dreamer districts. And so these kids were presenting their projects to a whole group of adults. And they were explaining all the work they'd done, what they had learned. I mean, it was a different presentation. And it wasn't done by teachers, and they commented it was strictly them that put it on. And I asked, he was in the 3rd grade, and I said, do you like this type of school, this type of work? He said, oh, yes, ma'am. He said, it is not boring like those old worksheets.
Oh, amen.
So, there you go.
Worksheet, another bad word for
Don't say worksheet. We are worksheeted out from my child.
One more thing we have done that is you need to come watch. All professional development for teachers is done with the students. It changes the whole dynamics of professional development.
What does that
look like? How does it come about? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we did this in simulated workplace. We started doing this a year and a half ago because we were trying to get project-based learning more integrated within our classrooms. And so in the beginning, we just had teachers going to professional development project-based learning. So I said one day, I said, you know, we're talking all this game about student voice and student empowerment. Why aren't they in the meeting? Because it's them, it's the students who are the recipients of whatever. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I've never been to a professional development like that. What happens is the teachers, let's say your project is the A. So the teachers say, let's say it's a rocket. So the teachers will say, okay, we're going to have a project that has the landing gears of a rocket. And the first thing you know, a hand goes up and the student says, why aren't we building the rocket? They push the envelope. And I have had, over the past 5 years, teachers in simulated workplace who have come up to me and said, I didn't realize I was holding my kids back. Now, these are good teachers that really care about their kids. He said, I thought I knew their level. Never did I dream. We've had kids that have put in grants to MIT. We have kids who have won Sony grants, kids that you don't know until you open that door for these kids, what they're capable of doing. And does every kid rise to that level? No, but all kids come up. I had one of my simulated workplace students say to me, he said, you know what simulated workplace is like? I said, what? It says, it makes so-so students really good students. It makes good students leaders. And they're right. They're right. You, as a student, I set my level that I want to achieve at. And you're the only person that either keeps you down or puts you up. And kids pick up on that real quick.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it's just, you know, now people listening to, is it a panacea? Is it the most? No, we are still, over the 7 years we have done simulated workplace, we have tweaked and changed, but we are learning. I have learned one thing in 7 years. We need to empower our students. We need to step back as adults and allow them a voice in their education process. When you do that, it flips the switch and you don't have the student who doesn't want to be there. And that in itself changes your entire school system.
And Cathy, I can say, I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, because we talk about, is it leadership from the top up? Is it leadership from the teacher level? And so when the state is empowering their teachers, it's almost like, how can you fail? Because you guys are saying, go for it. That's amazing.
Yeah. You know, it's sad that when you talk to teachers, when you say, if you had a magic wand, so what's the first thing they say? They talk about little things. They talk about, well, my classroom's not big enough, my blah, blah, blah. I said, no. Get rid of it. What would be the most ideal state in your room? And when you get down to it, they all eventually say, our kids want to be here. I mean, that's the ideal state. So why don't they want to be there? It should be fun. It should be exciting. It should be, and everybody should be successful, not just your high flyers. I mean, every kid should have the opportunity to have their voice heard and done. I've seen kids who come in that have been in classrooms that never say a word, all of a sudden end up as safety inspectors in their classroom. They just blossom. It's like watching little Mr. Robot go through and make a presentation on safety. He's the expert. I mean, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. The other piece we did that flipped it, you know how you can write grants for classrooms to get supplies, blah, 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 blah. We did that with Career Tech. The teacher would write a grant, say, I need this for my classroom, yada, yada. If we had the money, we flipped. No teacher writes for any money. No teacher writes grant. The student leaders of those companies write the grants, and they research the cost, and they tell me in the grant what it is, why they need it, and what learning skills or skill sets are they going to learn if they have this equipment. Students do it. Now when the equipment comes in, they take care of it, They understand. I mean, it's just, you got to look at it a little different. They should be the machine moving the education process. And the teachers and administrators should be the monitors and the facilitators of it. And it'll change our world. And that's what this Innovation Hub is going to try to do with these school districts. So it is a big, big switch. But I think the disruption of COVID is going to allow us to get this to happen, because everybody's disrupted now. so we're just going to sneak right in the door, and hopefully we can get some stuff taken care of. Hopefully.
It's incredible. Laura, I think we need to try that student and teacher PD at some point in time. I think that sounds really
You'd be amazed.
I would love to.
You would be amazed.
We've worked with phenomenal teachers, and we've done a lot of training in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And no, I think that'd be fun, because when we hold STEM days, Toi and I do, under different grants and things, it's so much fun, because we watch the kids' minds just blown. And so to put a blown mind in the room with a teacher who's grasping with, what do I do next? That could be fun.
Right.
Fun.
Right. Another outcome we had, the conferences we all go to for professional development, teachers do. Our top model simulated workplace, we had student leadership write a proposal to present at conferences themselves, and they were accepted. Now COVID came in, and unfortunately they're not going to be able to do it. But I had students come up and say, can we put in for a session? We'd like to talk about to other teachers what needs to happen in their classroom. I said, put it in there, and they got accepted. So it just blows me away what all the possibilities are. But that's what happens when you open up your classroom. And you got these 25, 30 little minds just going crazy. The one thing, though, I do want to say, and I think every person who is involved in education needs to understand this. When we got a 98% approval rate, student approval rate. This is from an outside group that came in and surveyed all of our simulated workplace companies. We got a 98% approval rate from every child. And I Zoomed in with 4,000 kids a year. They would come on and we'd talk about different things. I have asked kids from the Eastern Panhandle to the Southern Coalfields. I said, what is it? What is the thing about simulated workplace that makes you like it or makes you want to come to school? The one statement that every kid comes out of their mouth first is, I feel respected. And it just blew me away. What in the world are we doing in our educational system, whether higher ed, wherever, that a student does not feel respected? And I know teachers love them. I've seen it. I've seen their excitement for kids and their love and their nurturing. But the process by which we deliver education did not leave room for a child to have a voice. And therefore, they felt disrespected, which I understand.
What goes back to what you're talking about being a facilitator, and we use also the word coach, as opposed to teacher, and you will do 1, 2, 3, coach them.
Right.
And they'll feel like you're respected and have the depth to go forward.
Right. And as educators, we shouldn't feel bad that we don't have the answers to everything. There's no way you got the answers to everything. But what I have found is you turn these kids on to projects, they find the answers. That's okay. I mean, but if they're excited enough on something that they want to do the research, then let them. Let them go and learn with them. I mean, so it's a different way of looking at getting students. Until we get students engaged and empowered on their own education, we're going to be fighting the middle group. I mean, your top high flyers that are going to go regardless, they will go, but they could go so much higher if we facilitate it. And your other students will become engaged. They bubble up to the top, or they have the opportunity to. So I can't say enough about, I'd like to show the whole world what's happening inside our simulated workplaces. It's amazing.
Well, hopefully we'll get some showing them a little bit through this podcast, as it's, I mean,
Right, right.
Is
Well,
really,
now, and again, every single simulated workplace is not the high flyer. We're still learning. I've got some high flyer. I got some that are just blowing it out of the water. I've got a group that's starting to get it, and every year it gets better. And then I have this little group, I don't think it exists much anymore, but they kept waiting for it to go away. It's just like, well, if I just stay in here long enough, and they do that because that's what happens. We bring initiatives into education, it just goes, it's like a revolving door. I mean, how many initiatives I've gone through since 1960, I would hate to count.
Well, how many math programs did my children go through? It's like another year, another math program, right?
But that's because we put in canned programs. This is an environment. So it doesn't go, if you do it and you put it and everybody drinks the Kool-Aid, it doesn't go away. Because you can do any kind of learning within that kind of environment. And that's basically what we're trying to do, is just change the culture and the environment and allow kids to be a part of that design.
I love that you're doing this, that you're going to do this from elementary all the way up, because some point around about third grade, it seems, it's just a major flip.
Yep.
What happened to kindergarten? Like every single thing should be like kindergarten.
Yes, everybody's excited.
Like they're excited, they're stations, they're learning, they get to decide in many ways where they go with things. And my 10-year-old, he'll be 10 tomorrow, he still talks about his kindergarten teacher and how she was the best teacher ever. And I said, well, yeah, but it was kindergarten. He goes, no, she let me, he was big into Bigfoot and all other things cryptid. Right. And so he's like, she let me go on my own and research Bigfoot. And he did, he knew all the states where Bigfoot, he knew geography, he learned states, he learned statistics, he learned all this stuff because he was empowered and respected.
Right. Exactly.
Like what a concept.
You know, the little story, which is a cute joke, but the little story about the art teacher going around the kindergarten, and the child was working. She said, "What are you drawing?" She said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And she said, "Well," the teacher said, "Well, nobody really knows, what God looks like." She said, "Oh, I know, but they will in a few minutes." And that's where kids are. I mean, why not capture on? Why thwart this child by saying nobody knows what he looks like, so quit drawing it? He said, "Nope, they're going to know." I'll show them.
There you go.
Can you tell us, with these dream districts and things, we talk about the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, and how do we engage, you mentioned angels and these businesses, how do we engage more of the community in our public school system? And particularly, how are you doing that in West Virginia?
You engage the community is you make them part of the design. I'll tell you a good example. In all of our career tech centers, we have advisory boards for every program. That's one of the requirements. So if I have a welding program, I've got companies out there that are on my advisory board. When we started, that was really a chore for administrators and teachers to try to find people who were willing to come in and be a part of the process. Because first of all, if you look at it from a business, I was in business before. I'm probably busy, but if I'm going to give it up, I don't give it up to come have lunch with you and to listen to you, and then I leave, and my input doesn't really, I don't see a difference. That's one of the issues. But we flipped it. We gave it to the student leadership group of that company. We had them invite the business people. They set the agenda and they ran the meetings. We had standing room only because basically this is the emerging workforce for your folks. Your community, this is their nucleus of they need to want to keep these kids with their community or be an active member or have respect for their community. When they're working and they have a position of this, it's easy to get people involved. It's when it's a token and you check the box that I had my mayor here. We just checked the box. He was here. We did things. It has to be a reason. They have to also have a part in that whole process. So one of the things with the Dreamer districts, that's one of the very first onboarding is bringing in community leaders to have them part of the design process. There's a true saying, it takes a village to raise a child. There has to be a community involvement in the education process. And people need to figure out how we're going to involve our community, not just check the box of our community. I think it's an important part. I have little samples of what works, but have we truly figured all that out? No, but we're getting there. It's better than it was 7 years ago. Let's just put it that way. But we still have work to do there. I mean, that's one thing we're doing with our Simulate Workplace companies. These students submit to us a grant, and they have to work with their mayor, their commissioners, their economic development person, and their community to come up with a project that they can do as a group to impact their community. We then fund the project. Now, I wish we could fund everything that comes in. We are limited in dollars, but at least we get 7 to 8 of them out there. So, for example, up in Hardy County, these kids have helped build an outdoor farmers market with some other opportunities up there for the Hardy County, and they've worked with their commissioners, their economic. So these kids are part of all that. So now they've got an investment in their community. We've had some kids that have taken over parks, city parks, and upgraded them, refurbished. Again, it goes back. I help do that. I'm part of the community. You just get kids invested in their communities, and it's amazing how then the community reacts to your school system. So there's all kinds of ways that we can work with communities. That's why I said, when you read in my bio, I said we need to leverage education dollars to impact our economy. Education gets, and I may be wrong on this amount, but we get 60 or 70% of the state budget. I mean, it's high. I'm not sure what the percentage. I know it's high. Why isn't that money leveraged in communities so that, for example, what I just said, if we got money out there to help them build a park, that's their tax dollars coming into the state and then flowing right back out to them. We need to look at that more. We've got the opportunity. We just need creatively to figure out how that happens. When the flood happened in 2000, and I think it was 2010, when that big flood came in, the whole thing, our companies across, we built 15 tiny homes, turnkey, gave them to the governor. He gave them to 15 flood victims that did not have places to live. Okay, so that's 15. What if we built these homes every year in Career Tech and the governor then stores them somewhere? And every time there's a natural disaster and people are out of their homes, they couldn't be rolled out for temporary housing. Once it's over with, they come back, are clean, put back in the storage. Why not? I mean,
Why not? Exactly.
Why not?
You talk about get the give back and the business involvement, and kids are used to hearing the word community service. So push that all through their schooling years. Some high schools require it. But I think that the issue is that while it's an amazing thing, and yes, we as parents want our kids to be involved, flipping it and doing the business side of it so they really see that their service, quote, is truly an investment in their future and their own business and their lives.
Right.
The different way of thinking about how do we give back, how the businesses give back, how the students give back.
That's what this does. I mean, they see the things that in our state boardroom right now, the room was redesigned and rebuilt. I don't want to say the desk, but the places that go around you've seen with board members, that was all built by students. That was their project and built by students. So this, the state didn't spend money having this done. The kids did it. Now they got their names on the plaque at the state board. Why not? I mean, and they're proud. Oh my goodness, they're proud. So we've got, I think it's Greenbrier County, these students in one of the companies are rebuilding playgrounds in Brazil using refabricated, and the people they zoom in with the people from Brazil and they're building their playgrounds.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just, half the people don't even know what our kids are really doing.
Wow.
It's just, I just think we just scratched the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much we could be doing if we change the way we look at our young people in this state and use them as a great resource, not as part of something they have to do. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
That's so amazing. And we're so appreciative to have this opportunity to speak with you today. And we are coming up on our time. We like to try to keep the drive.
I told you I could talk.
But I know we are going to come back at you at some point for round 2, because this has been, you have so much on the horizon right now that we will definitely want to talk about. Maybe even we could get some kids on from.
I would, if you would get some of our companies to come on your podcast, you would be, I mean, I'm telling you, they're just delightful. I absolutely, my biggest thing was to talk to these young people.
Well, I think we should do a live podcast from one of your dream schools.
That would be good. That would be great. Once we get them up and running, that'd be super.
So Cathy, how can folks find you or find out more about what you're working on if they're interested?
Well, I'm still with the department. I'm part-time. I mean, I'm not a full-time employee at the department, but I'm still there. Or they can send an email to D'Antoni at k12.wv.us. I still have my email address because I am working part-time with them. That would be probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Cathy, this is one of those times I really wish we could share the video.
I've got tons of video. So if you just let me know, I would be happy to share.
But your face and your passion, you're just very approachable and friendly and kind and brilliant and all good things. And this is what I wish our audience could see. The engagement that we're getting and better.
Right.
Oh, well, Cathy, thank you so much for
Thank you. And I look forward, if anybody would like, to go visit one of the models of simulated workplace, they could contact the Department of Ed Career Tech area, and I'm sure somebody would set up and be happy to take them around and show them some of our models. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm sure our audience will enjoy you as much as we have.
I hope. I enjoy the students. They're great kids. We got great kids.
Sure do.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Cathy.